Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and today we got to talk about a program out of the city of San Francisco that is going to seem so unrealistic, so absurd, so absolutely ridiculous in every possible way. You'd think I made it up. I thought the New York Post made it up, but guess what? It is in fact real, just like Ana Kasparian said.
This isn't a thing. This isn't real. This isn't real. So I looked it up. It's real, guys. It's real.
And of course, what we're talking about is the city of San Francisco realizing that their $5 million a year program to give homeless people who are often alcoholics free alcohol was not a good program, was possibly a disastrous program. Now, we're going to get into this, but before we do, I want to thank everybody who signed up over at actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
And I want to also thank Dan for giving me this shirt. It says lawful good on it. It looks all crusade-y. And he gave me this because I'm getting married this year, and he thought this, among a bunch of other more personal gifts, would be something really nice to bring over. So I appreciate you, Dan. And this video about the homeless alcoholics may not be what you bargained for, but it is in fact for you. So let's get into it. So like I said, all this started with this headline right here from the New York Post that said, San Francisco slammed for $5 million a year program to give free alcohol to the homeless. Quote, "This isn't working." Now again, when I first saw this particular headline, I thought that this wasn't real. I thought that this had to be fake. And honestly, the headline did me no favors. I mean, if you were to tell me that somebody was criticizing feeding alcoholics alcohol for free on the taxpayer dime, and we're talking about homeless alcoholics, I think I could muster up a more intense quote than, quote, "This isn't working." But apparently that is where we're at in the city of San Francisco. It is considered absolutely outrageous that somebody would dare speak up against the progressives and point out that feeding alcoholics alcohol is kind of bad. It's kind of in the not good category, but this needs to be said in one of the wealthiest cities in the United States of America because it is run by progressive Democrats. Remember, this is the area that initially elected Chesa Boudin, although credit where credit is due, they did in fact recall Chesa Boudin. But let's get into the story. Maybe you'll think this program makes sense. Maybe you'll understand how giving a drunk a drink is actually good when you paint it all up in progressivism and you realize that, of course, homeless people have a god tier right to be drunk in public, to attack people, and to do whatever they damn well please in the city of San Francisco. A program that offers free booze to the homeless alcoholics that roam San Francisco caught flack this week when a tech CEO questioned the logic of feeding addictions of the city's street dwellers. Adam Nathan, founder and CEO of the small business AI marketing tool Blaze, and the chair of the Salvation Army San Francisco Metro Advisory Board, posted a thread on X slamming the program after watching a string of unhoused, they're homeless by the way, drunks line up for their shots, stating that this just doesn't feel right. Now, a lot of people are saying that artificial intelligence, AI, is going to take over the world. It is going to destroy all of humanity. And need I remind everybody that the CEO of an AI company, a guy who is in the designing phase of this supercomputer that's going to take over all of us and kill us Terminator style, saw a bunch of homeless people, homeless alcoholics, lining up for shots of free booze, and all he could muster up, just like the original quote in the headline, was this soft quote about how, this just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel A-okay, first class all the way, to say, hey, alcoholics, here's some alcohol for free. We're gonna give it to you. You're already to the point where your drinking and your drug addiction has led you to being on the streets of San Francisco, so let us enable you. But I don't know, for some reason, that doesn't feel right. For some reason, that feels a bit odd to the CEO of an AI company. For some reason, this is a little bit confusing to the man creating the robot intelligence, which honestly, it worries me more than this actual story, because San Francisco gonna San Francisco, but this guy's designing the supercomputer that's gonna kill us all. It's gonna make people like me into people like Mr. Skeleton over here. Quote, did you know San Francisco spends $2 million a year on a, quote, managed alcohol program, end quote? It provides alcohol to people struggling with chronic alcoholism who are mostly homeless, Nathan wrote on the social media site. Now, even though in this particular quote it says that this program actually costs $2 million a year, it is very important to note that the San Francisco Chronicle actually says that this program costs $5 million a year. So maybe what happened here is that he found the initial proposal for this that was $2 million, but the program had such great uptake. I mean, all these alcoholics turn out they really like alcohol, so they kept showing up and they ran up the cost an additional $3 million over the initial $2 million proposed, again, to feed these alcoholics alcohol. Who would have guessed if you offered alcoholics alcohol for free, they would drink a lot? I can't believe I couldn't possibly figure this out. Maybe the CEO of Blaze AI can work out for this, how this could possibly happen, why alcoholics tend to want alcohol, and how this program doesn't actually help the alcoholics not drink alcohol. Somehow giving them the booze doesn't help them. The program, as described by the Chronicle, sees nurses dispense controlled doses of vodka and beer to street people at specific times a day, intended to keep the homeless off the streets and out of jail or in the emergency room. It's run out of the former hotel in the city's Tenderloin district. The program started with 10 beds and now has grown to 20, the Chronicle reported. Over 4 years, it's served 65 clients total, the report said, with the goal of keeping participants out of the ER and reducing calls to the cops. So there's two things that you should have learned about this particular program. First and foremost, it is not very widespread. As they said, they have about 65 people taking up the offer of the city of San Francisco, and while they do provide beds, it's only about 20 beds total, so it has doubled in size from the original inception of the program just 4 years ago. Secondly, apparently, feeding 65 people's alcohol addiction with controlled doses administered by nurses. I guess if you get a nursing degree in the city of San Francisco, you end up working as a bartender, which is pretty sad, honestly. Nursing, very respectable profession. But that 65 people being served alcohol costs $5 million. $5 million for 65 people serving them alcohol who are alcoholics. $5 million. Now look, maybe you're not so good at the maths. Maybe you need some calculations for you so you can understand how absurd this actually is. But to break it down for you, this program costs per person $76,000 a year. $76,000 a year. We're spending, well, not we, I'm not a freaking resident of the city of San Francisco. Let's be clear about that. I would never move over there. But San Francisco taxpayers are spending $76,000 a year on homeless services, and those homeless services include giving them vodka and beer. $76,000 to give alcoholics booze. $76,000. Again, these are homeless people. You would assume that the socialist utopia that is San Francisco would just give them the $76,000. In fact, very notable homeless advocate Anna Kasparian has an exact plan for what you should do with that money. Let me bring her up right here so she could point out the absurdity of this.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
But apparently, rather than, $76,000 to go to getting them off the streets, we're making sure that they're absolutely lit up while they're on the streets because, that's the city of San Francisco. This is the program that the AI tech CEO said, now that I look at it, now that I think about it, now that I've crunched the numbers, spending $76,000 a year giving any individual homeless person some booze that happens to be addicted to alcohol, who happens to be an alcoholic, maybe, just maybe, that program doesn't seem to be working. maybe, just maybe, that program, not the most well thought out. Maybe the people who thought of this program spend $76,000 drinking per year on their own, and we shouldn't allow them to write public policy. By the way, I also want to point out I'm rounding down because $76,923 actually rounds up to $77,000, but you know what? That is a bridge too far. I cannot take this. Now, Nathan, again, the CEO of an AI company, said he took a close look at the high-octane giveaways, and he describes them as follows. Quote, inside the lobby, they had kegs set up, 2 taps that were basically giving out free beer to homeless who've been identified as with an alcohol use disorder. Again, alcoholics or drunkards, as I like to call them. Quote, it's set up so people in the program to just walk in and grab a beer and then another one all day. Now, Nathan would go on to say that providing drug addicts the drugs that they're addicted to doesn't actually help them, it just prolongs their addiction. And while there is some programs like injection sites for people who are addicted to opioids that have been proven to work in past iterations, the fact of the matter is the way that these programs are laid out are completely set up for failure. And on top of that, even though we're talking about alcoholics and giving them booze in San Francisco in the form of beer and vodka, to be clear, California is known for enabling drug addicts, and a perfect example of this was the program, again, taxpayer dollars being funneled to a nonprofit being used to enable homeless people to give them crack pipes in order for them to smoke their crack better. Now, again, the needle exchanges have been absolutely disastrous because these homeless people end up leaving the needles all over the place. That's why, in comparison to a needle exchange where the needles end up all over the street, I prefer an injection site. But at least there is some utility for the general public because you can get HIV, and the more people who have HIV, the more likelihood it is to spread amongst different various communities. But crack pipes and alcoholics, they don't have the same external impact on other people that the spreading of HIV would have on those people. So this just doesn't make any sense at all whatsoever. It's absolutely enabling. And the fact that the city of San Francisco went out of their way to identify alcoholics to give them alcohol is absurd. And in fact, there's actually a reference in this to Canada's use of the safe supply in British Columbia in particular that provides free opioids so that people don't overdose on fentanyl. And obviously there is some utility, like I said, in that, because the chances are if you're getting this clean supply of the opioids that you want, you won't be in a situation where it's laced with fentanyl. That being said, when have you ever heard of, in the history of ever, a bottle of beer, a Colt 45, a glass of vodka, a shot of vodka being laced with fentanyl? Now, some nerd out there in the audience is definitely 100% going to write one of those examples in the comments, and I want you to do that. I want you to write it as detailed as possible because I will delete that without even reading it, and then I will ban you, and then I will go into your account and deactivate your account because obviously I'm talking about overall common instances. You hear more about people getting laced with fentanyl when they're buying illicit drugs than fentanyl being in a Budweiser or anything like that. I'm just saying. So save your comment, you nerd out there in the audience. Now, Nathan told the outlet that locals are not adequately informed about the program because San Francisco's health department is worried about how, quote, the program will be perceived by the public, and that, to me, was validated by the reaction to what I tweeted. The city's health officials retorted that Nathan spread misinformation and that the alcohol on the premises is not readily available to anyone who walks in. Can we talk about that particular sentiment right there? That the public is not made aware of this particular program, that they're not being told about it because people who are in office, who work for them, theoretically work for the taxpayers in a democracy, in a republic, are worried about how the citizens will react to how they're spending their money. That's what they're concerned about. I know a lot of people say you voted for this and all that, and to a certain extent, that is in fact true in the city of San Francisco, although I will point out that the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals has been enabling the homeless problem, especially on the West Coast in this country for a long period of time. So a certain extent of their problems, and we'll find out if the Supreme Court actually overturns this, is probably due to that particular warning. But the fact of the matter is they're hiding what they're doing, and honestly, this actually leads me to a more sinister conclusion, although I will give the caveat that I think this is just pure incompetence, pure stupidity, that people are just trying to apply the narrow benefits to a safe supply of opioids in terms of preventing overdoses to all these different various types of drugs. But another part of me thinks that the homeless industrial complex exists to perpetuate itself, not to solve homelessness. Again, these people are given mega budgets, and there was a whole scandal in the state of California about how they spent $24 billion on homeless services, and none of that money is accountable for. There's no record of what they did with it, or they kept very loose records. So somebody obviously is making a huge amount of money off of this. We have the Los Angeles apartments that, again, per unit, per one-bedroom apartment, were going to cost $800,000 because of all the different graft off of the system and all that. So it seems like, to me, this is something that is aligned with the financial incentives of the homeless industrial complex to make the problem worse, not better, because the more it gets bad in the city of San Francisco, the more the Tenderloin, which, by the way, is a place where a lot of these problems are percolating, gets worse, the more people in California, the more politicians in California want to vote or spend money from the taxpayer to supposedly solve this problem. So essentially, you're creating a more addicted, a more alcohol dependent, more dangerous supply of homeless people that will result in the city of San Francisco, at least, in appropriating more money to solve this problem. That will result in the state of California into appropriating more unaccountable money in order to solve this problem. So the very sinister part of my brain thinks that they can't actually be this stupid. But then again, have you ever met or talked to a left-wing progressive? These people have no grasp of reality, and yes, a lot of them are that stupid. But again, let me know what you guys think, stupid or sinister, or both, down in the comments below. That being said, let's go on a little bit. Now, this is also from the CEO, quote, "As a Democrat, I'm all for directing more government funds to programs that achieve their objectives and provide public benefits," he said in a follow-up post after the Chronicle story, pointing out that President Biden's infrastructure bill, the Bipartisan CHIPS Act, healthcare subsidies for low-income people as examples. But, quote, "This isn't working." The famous quote from the headline. He said that the city's health department, quote, "is not helping people get better, it's about keeping people sick," and added, "We are living in the upside down." And honestly, that is the exact attitude exemplified of what I'm talking about. This guy's like, listen, I'm a Democrat. I'm all for voting for programs to help society and whatnot, and I'm all for appropriating government funds in order to do so. However, I just think, and I'm granted, I'm going to be as soft as possible, because how dare I, as a CEO, talk about the innocent angel Aladdins, the super citizens, the homeless people, that maybe, just maybe, this isn't working. And by the way, this was a follow-up piece after the Chronicle wrote an article about this whole situation, where he kind of gave this little bit of a mea culpa. So this guy will probably keep voting for this nonsense, so he kind of deserved this. And again, I want to remind you, he's designing AI, robots that will kill us all in the future, and he's talking about voting for more nonsense like this, and giving horrible examples of government programs that he swears definitely worked, just to give you his Democratic bona fides. Now, again, I want to know overall what you guys think about this situation down in the comments below. Do you think, like I said, this is sinister, or do you think this is stupid? Or do you think that this is actually secretly, low-key, the most intelligent program of all time? Alcoholics want alcohol, so let's give them alcohol and spend $77,000 doing so, because that will solve a problem. We've been running this program for 4 years, 65 participants, $5 million total budget. I'm sure it will work out and be aces all the way. Now, as usual, if you like this video, you show me by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. Again, special thank you to Dan for this shirt and a bunch of other gifts. Till next time.